Jeffo MN. Thanks for the sub. By the way, if we want to take that, it's right there. Oh, we were going for the 20% Goblin famed item, weren't we? Which, by the way, why does that one have so many more decimals? This is a 4.2. This is a point. Oh, this is 0.2, not 20%. Oh, forget that. Oh.
A renewal. Welcome back.
Welcome back, Coriander. Have I ever told you that coriander tastes like soap to me? I'm one of the people genetically predisposed to taste coriander as soap. I went to a brewery one time, my wife and I, and we were like, why do all their fucking beers taste like soap? And it was that they were using coriander in all their beers. Seems short-sighted to me. All right. Definitely a stamina and resolve. Question is, do we take the 4 times HP roll or the 2 times melee attack roll? I think it's the 2 times melee attack roll here. Okay. Doesn't have 150 HP.
You have returned.
Welcome back, Broncos Rule. 51-month streak. Committed. Has never looked back. What a man. What a man. Cleaver spec. We're trying. This is the Goblin banner. We're trying it. See how we feel about it at the end of all this. It's going to be inconsistent is what it's going to be. Where the fuck are cleavers there? Okay. Ondridge, the Obliterator's Gouge. Oh, now my famed items are named after mods as well? Or not mods, mods? I remember if Ondridge is on. I think it's just mods right now. It's not sub count entirely, right? Yeah. Yeah, okay. So this is 30 average damage, which is roundel damage, dagger damage, right? 9 less fatigue's relevant. But I mean, I don't know if it's... Alright, so what does puncture cost normally? Puncture is normally 20. You get a quarter off for a weapon, so it's normally 15. So it brings it down to 12. So instead of spending 45, which means you need 90... By the way, so the killer chosen outright, you need to hit it between 4 and 5 times, 4.3 times with a obsidian dagger to get to 50 HP. So outside of that, you're going to need to hit it 5 times with a puncture that's not an obsidian dagger, right? Like the rondel dagger. Realistically, you need to hit it 5 times. If you want to do that with like a burst damage thing where you're killing it before it can do something to you, you really want to adrenaline burst it, right? So you want to triple puncture it, adrenaline, triple puncture it. Fatigue reductions on the base cost, not after the weapon spec. What does that actually mean for the terms of it? Does that mean it comes down to 12 or does it come to something higher than 12? So dagger spec doesn't add damage to puncture. So with this then, let's assume best case scenario it goes down to 12. 12.75, so it costs me 13. That sucks. So let's say it costs me 13. So that means I have to do that twice. That means I need, for 1 round is 39 usable stam. For 2 rounds is 78 usable stam. If I want to tack on an adrenaline on there, what'd I say it was? 39 twice is 78. Add 20 to that is 98. Subtract 15 for that for your turn recovery. 98 minus 15. We're looking at 83 stamina I need in the stam pool. That still doesn't seem reasonable, and that's for 1 fucking round. I mean, like, I can build a Nimble Brother with 83 stamina. It is totally possible to do that. Do we try it? I was looking at potentially building, you know, we have these frontliners now. We get these people with triple melee attack but no melee defense stars. And we were, last playthrough, we were using them for the Whip Brothers, and then the Whip Brothers got nerfed. And now I'm looking for another reason to use them. Does it get double grip bonus? No. No, it's in the text of Puncture. See, if you mouse over Puncture, it says, can't land critical hits, nor inflict additional damage with double grip. Well, I mean, that's what we want as a chosen hunter for sure. No, you can get damage, additional damage to daggers, but I think it's only through Killing Frenzy. How did Whip get nerfed? Went from 4 AP from 4 AP to 5 AP. I mean, this is one of the ways I want to check it out. So if you guys haven't seen it already, I think I updated this morning. I'll take a look for you guys on stream real quick. So if you come down to the bottom of the build sheet, now we have a tab called We Hate the Chosen, where I was just playing around with some stuff. So here's the Chosen stats we're working with, right? I think on average we're seeing 190 heads and 230 chest pieces on Chosen. We're seeing 15 melee defense, 10 range defense, and 150 HP, I believe, is what we're looking at for Chosen stats most of the time. That's what the site that I looked at had. So I was looking at Obsidian Dagger. So this is hits to kill it. You can see the cumulative damage over here. So it's 4.3 average hits to kill them. And then looking at the probability of doing that with something like, if you have a 70% puncture hit chance, to have a 70% puncture hit chance, you need to have 100 melee attack there. And that's not, if we can get higher than that, that would be great, because it really helps a lot to do that. But you're looking realistically at swinging, you basically need to swing 66 times. It's got to be, I'm trying to kill them in the least number of turns possible is basically what I'm looking at, because we're trying to burst Chosen out before they kind of swing. Since they hit so damn hard, it feels like it's important to try to limit the number of swings they're getting on you. And I was looking at how to do that. Crossbows are actually really bad. One of the suggestions in the review video was crossbows. And like, considering I'm also thinking about killing Chosen through their armor, crossbows sounded a little bit interesting to me. But then you look at the crossbow numbers and they're just so bad, man. They're so bad. So if that's one round, right? If we can adrenaline that, it's basically 2 rounds of attack to kill them with an obsidian dagger, if you hit enough and you have the stamina to do it, which may or may not be possible, we'll see. Crossbows are like 6 rounds, because they only get 1 shot per round, and it still takes 4 to 5 crossbow shots to kill them. So, and you're only rolling at like, you know, like hitting, if you have to hit 5, which is what you have to kill some of the time, between 4 and 5, probability of hitting 4 shots out of 6 turns of shooting is only 83%. Like, that's not bursting a Chosen down. That's allowing the Chosen to grow old and die of old age with a crossbow bolt in him. So that doesn't seem very realistic. And I was looking at heavy javelins. Heavy javelins are pretty promising, because I think you can kill them in 2 turns as well, right? So this is the duelist spec, but the problem is there's a lot of considerations with heavy javelins that are not immediately apparent when you look at this, which is you look at things like, well, duelists, you get the biggest bonus from javelins at 2 tiles out from a target. That's the most you can get. That's the only time you're getting the 40% damage bonus from the spec. And then it's not too bad. It's not that many to kill, right? It's 4 hits. But you're not going to hit that on 4 attacks, even with 90 attack skill. So realistically, you're looking at something like 6 shots, which is 3 turns of throwing. You're going to sit behind a I mean, like, yes, you can have multiple throwers, but the problem is to get throwers in range is really awkward positionally, to be 2 tiles out but not also getting hit by Chosen. Especially when you're massively overwhelmed by people, or there's fucking unholds messing up your positioning. So that seems like, on paper, I'm like, yeah, the javelin damage is really nice, but in reality, I'm not so sure. And then I was just looking at things like that same mace we're looking at seems actually pretty promising. This one doesn't have a lot of positioning restrictions, and 4 hits with that will kill a Chosen. Chosen don't have great melee defense. We have melee attack already. That seems to be a realistic way to potentially do it. And if we combine this with like 2-handed axes, maybe. So, anyways, the progress, the search for killing Chosen continues. Something we want to work with. So, have other brothers around to do the damage. The problem with combining puncture with a weapon that doesn't do armor piercing damage is that you will waste damage. If we sped up all this work to try to get punctures in that doesn't do armor damage, and then we follow up with someone attacking the armor, that's really, really inefficient. We may as well just attack the fucking armor with a better weapon. Well, 2 tiles of the dude being higher behind him. You think I should try to make it even more restrictive, the terrain in which this strategy works? Seems questionable to me. Well, some famed javelins have longer range. Well, the problem is they can have all the fucking range in the world they want. The problem is the perk works that way, right? So if you want to get those damage numbers we were just looking at, you need to be 2 tile distance from them, because it's a damage buff based on distance for throwing weapons. But tried vets or dogs. Actually, I think dogs is a suggestion for the final, the chosen camps, the huge ones at the end with the unholds is actually not bad. Because the dogs, the unholds are high initiative, so they run out ahead of the rest of the packs, or the unholds. So dropping dogs to engage the unholds and stall them for a turn or two is not a terrible idea. Puncture needs fearsome? No, the opposite. Puncture does not need fearsome whatsoever. Fearsome is, the way the perk works is if you do 15 or more damage, then as it is right now in the game, if you don't have fearsome and you do 15 or more damage, it causes a morale check. Fearsome means that if you do less than 15 damage, you also cause a morale check, so long as you did at least 1 damage. Health points damage, to be clear, not armor damage. Puncture already hits for more than 15. So you definitely don't need fearsome with puncture. Would crippling strikes plus backstab help the puncture build? Backstab means you're surrounding them. It seems unlikely you're going to get that often. I mean, of course, if you can get extra accuracy somewhere, that's going to help. Would crippling strikes be useful? Maybe. Executioner would be useful. If Executioner can get it down from 5 hits to 4 hits, and at 4.3 hits, it's pretty likely that something like that is relevant. Executioner probably is relevant. Whether or not crippling strikes is relevant, I don't know. I don't really know how wounds work. I think there is an article on the Wikipedia, and I remember reading it at one point, but I don't remember what the take-homes were. I remember the take-home was basically, or rather what I internalized the take-home was basically having a high HP pool prevents normal-sized hits from causing injuries, basically. And that there are like 2 levels of injuries. Like if you get like a certain percentage of your hit points lost in 1 hit, then that has a very high chance of causing like the tier 2 injury versus the tier 1, etc. But I don't know what that cutoff is. So I don't know on Chosen, for example, with 150 HP, how much damage do you need to reliably cause either a tier 1 wound or a tier 2 wound? Because crippling a Chosen, like getting like the minus 50% modifier on him, like, you know, some of the mace hits, if you hit someone in the head with the mace, you can often cause like severe concussion or like brain trauma or whatever the fuck it's called. The other one that's like a huge minus 50% stat debuff. So I don't really know how that works. If someone does know that, maybe I should look the article up and do it now while I'm thinking about it. 50 to 60% HP for heavy wounds, which is never going to happen on Chosen, right? Because the enemy, this is another thing where the system favors the enemy as opposed to the player, because the enemy units have so much more health than the player units. Cracked skull, that's the one I was thinking of, thanks. Am I on the BattleBrothers Wikipedia? I guess I could look right now. What does it say about wounds? Let's find out. Search. Wounds. Blunt cleaver bandages. No, I'd like to know how it works. Temporary injuries. All right. It says... Successful attacks can inflict injuries if these conditions are met. The target is affected by injuries. The damage received is greater than 10 HP. Damage threshold. Injury equals injury threshold. Injuries at different thresholds between 25 and 60% of maximum HP. Oh, it's max too. It's not even existing HP. Injury threshold is not multiplied by anything. Wait, the injury threshold multiplier is not currently modified by anything. The injury threshold multiplier is modified by crippling strikes. That's one way to write that. All right. So crippling strikes is making it more likely that you're going to hit the injury threshold. Takes a 33% reduction. I love Iron Jaw for exactly that reason. Multiplier is set to 1.25. The head was hit. But still, I mean, even let's say we're taking So what was did it give me the threshold? Threshold is 25% to 60% of maximum HP. Injuries have different thresholds. Does it tell me which injury is what? So like the piercing injuries are like damage stuff, right? So how much damage do we need to reliably do that? So let's say it's 66% even, right? So chosen with 150. 25% of 150 is what? Half of 75, so it's 37. So we need to do 40 damage to get an injury, and then if we do crippling strikes, it's now, how does that exactly interact with that? Is it a multiplier for us or a multiplier? Okay, so I understand that it's going to make it less damage needed, and it reduces it by a third, right? So if it was 37, we take 13 off that, basically 12 off that. So if we get it down to 25, if we're doing 25 average damage, we can cause injuries. Isn't that exactly what the Obsidian Dagger does most of the time? No, yeah, average damage is actually 35. Huh, it's interesting. Damage reducing injuries are what now? Are crushing damage and slicing. Okay. Well, the ones that I like the most are the head damage. Yeah. Fame Dagger plus damage for heavier wounds. Well, the interesting part is also Executioner, right? Like, we don't have to get heavier wounds. If we can trigger any wounds, then we can get Executioner bonus on the dagger. And that, if you look again, look at the spreadsheet again, chat, like how close we are to breaking this down, for breaking it down from 4 to 3 rather. If you look at this, like, we're doing 140 damage with 4 attacks. Same with the bow. The crossbow is doing 141 with 4 attacks. And the javelins are doing, I don't think you're going to get down to 3 very often, although you will. This is average damage, so if you high roll a couple, you will potentially sometimes get down to 3. Reducing the, I mean, the ultimate value in this is in understanding how the wounds work on this particular enemy is understanding hits to kill. If you can reduce the average number of hits to kill on the weapons you're using to attack the Chosen, you give them less chance to react on you. And that seems really relevant. And there's a couple of them that are really close, right? Not so much the 126 and the 131, or the 120 rather, but both the 141s. Bringing the dagger down from 5 hits to 4 hits is really big, because if you look at it, the odds of hitting 4 attacks in 2, because with the dagger you attack 3 times per turn, which means 2 turns is 6 attacks. If your chance of killing them on 6 attack goes from 42% where you have to hit 5 to 74% where you only have to hit 4 of those 6, that's a huge increase in likelihood of that Chosen dying in a single 2-turn round of the Adrenaline dagger build, right? Same with crossbows. I mean, crossbows, this number is a little bit confusing, because if you have 1 crossbow shooting for this amount of damage, this is going to be terrible and a total waste of your fucking time. But if you have 4 crossbows shooting for this amount of damage, that means you could 1 volley Chosen from range, which would actually be pretty fucking useful. Now, I don't know if crossbows are useful anywhere else, so it's really hard for me to want to train Crossbow Brothers. But potentially the hybrids can use crossbows. Like this spec here that we're running behind the screen right now. This spec here for this hybrid. I mean, there might be a way to fit crossbow spec in that. I don't know what the hell you're taking out. You're starting to get really greedy for perk points if you're running Duelist and Throwing Mastery and Crossbows. But look, maybe we find that Throwing Mastery is great and the damage is nice, but it's not necessary. Like, we can beat the fights that this would help for. I mean, we already can, right? Like, what has this damage been used for right now? I found it's been bad. It's the most useful thing for these throwing weapons so far has been killing Ancient Undead, but we already crush Ancient Undead. That's not a fight I need more help in. So do I really need to build brothers that are able to do that? So maybe this goes back to a crossbow plus whip hybrid as opposed to that, and we take Throwing Mastery out and take Duelist out, drop it in Crossbow Mastery and get back Gifted, or even drop or get back like Executioner or crippling strikes. Like if we can get those perk points back, and then suddenly maybe we can actually kill some Chosen at range. And killing a couple Chosen before they engage could be super, super valuable. There's a lot more damage flexibility in the crossbow than there is in, positioning flexibility than there is in something like throwing weapons. So now if we go back and looking at the throwing weapon builds, like they're very interesting. It's very high damage. It's very high piercing damage. Like it's the highest piercing damage I can find is the heavy javelins, armor ignore damage that is. But yeah. So anyways, It's kind of where I'm thinking right now. It's what I want to test. A couple fights like that, testing versus Chosen is interesting to me. Strange mushrooms. Ooh. I didn't even think about that. That's real interesting. What's that? It's a 40% damage buff, right? How many turns is it? That's the issue. Because every time I've used them, my brothers get sick, and then they have a massive debuff for the rest of the fight. Alright, let's take a look at that. What does strange mushrooms do? Yeah, 40% damage in melee. I'd not consider that. It's interesting. Does that change any of the numbers that we care about? If we just multiplied this by 1 point, let's look at. So the crossbows are the least realistic to me, I think. But what about on like the duelists? Is the mushroom a inventory item, or is it a attachment item? Does it sit in these locations or those locations? So what does that actually work out to be if we just say oh, it's melee damage. So it's not going to affect any of the range shit anyways. So it's only going to affect potentially these ones. I don't think I want to take melee defense off the guys who are training melee defense, but the Daggerman probably isn't, because what I'm going to look for is a brother who rolls triple attack stars, but no melee defense stars, right? And try to do it some sort of alpha build that is going to use is going to have his teammates rotate him out and use adrenaline to alpha. So in that case, it could be potentially doable. Is it next attacks or number of turns? You can't double crossbow in a turn unless you get a killing blow. It's number of turns. It sucks. So if we did this, and then, oops, there's an equals in front of it. What does this do for turns? Did I not reference it? Ah, fuck me, I didn't reference it. All right, hold on. Why is it orange? I don't want it to be orange. I'll worry about it later. Oh, there it is. Really, every other one I referenced, but in the front one I didn't because it was daggers and it was just easier to not write it. It's annoying. So what we want is that. And we want it here. And we want it from E5 to E9. I think. Right? F, not EF. Okay. And oh, and I fucked that formula up. It's not from. I don't want the 9 to stay common. I want the other one to stay common or stay locked. So it's that. Okay. So what does that actually do? It actually does push it down from 4 attacks to 3 attacks. And what does that do for like a binomial distribution thing? Just a second. So let me pull that up as well. Probability, not distribution. So if we're looking for, all right, it was around a 70% chance to hit, right? That's what we're working with. Puncture hit percentage 0.7. Okay. Number of trials, we get 6. Number of successes needed, we need 3. Probability of that should be calculated. So we're looking for greater than or equal. That gives us a 93% chance to kill them with 6 attacks. That actually starts to be pretty damn interesting. Huh. And what if we play with that a little bit more? So we got two. Okay, we have two more things to add to sheets right now. Okay. All right, chat. I know what I'm doing for the next 20 minutes here. So if you don't like spreadsheets, I'm sorry. I hope I wish you well in your next 20 minutes. But we're gonna play around with this for a second. All right. So this is that needs to stay as it was. Okay. Well, let's grab this for a second and look at. Oh, don't fucking reference it. Make me sad. There's gotta be an easier way to copy paste that without losing the. This is now J22 to J18. J22 to J18. Okay. J18 to J22. Puncture hit chance. What were we referencing off that of? Oh, the average. It's that minus that. Okay, sure. Just leave that at 70 for a minute. We'll fix that later. Average damage is still going to be 35, but there's a couple ways we could modify this, right? So 35, 35, 35. That all looks good. We can fix this in just a second, the binomial probabilities when we look at that. But if this goes up, so we can multiply this times 1.4 for the one. And I wonder, so with crippling strikes, did we need crippling strikes? So what was our damage then? So the break, that it was 25% of the HP damage of a target to hit a wound. And for chosen, that was 37. This is our average damage. What's the range on dagger? Because we're trying to force this to be as reliable as possible, right? We don't want to go into this with like 50% of the time you killed them, 50% of the time they attack you 4 times, and you love your life. What's the actual range? 25 to 45. So what's the low end on? So low end of that is 40% extra of 25. It doesn't matter, just 25 is the low end, right? So 25 is the lowest amount of damage that we care about. Is that? Oh no, it wasn't. It was 37. But still, I mean, that's funny. 50% of 25 is 37, or rather 150%. But 40% of that is slightly under, so we're still slightly under that. I'm trying to decide, do we need crippling strikes in that at all? It's probably not, right? And how much does another 20% equal for that? Oh, yeah, if we're looking at crippling strikes, you're saying? But we're talking with or without mushrooms then, Han. You're talking without mushroom right there, right? So, all right, we can call this, and if we're looking for this, so if we're hitting for average 35, and this is actually, I'm using like 20, what was it, 25 to 45? If it's the average of 35, it would need to be 70. So it would be that, right? That was the damage. Yeah. Okay, so if then you're saying with crippling strikes, it's going to hit 24.75. So even if anything except the 1 on its roll, basically, if it rolls between that, it's going to be enough to cause damage. That's with crippling strikes. And then crippling strikes is going to make the rest of the damage to 20% more. So the first hit is actually going to be 25. Not 25. It's going to be 35. And the other ones are going to be this times 1.2. Because that would be the executioner bonus, right? So then it hits like that. How many hits to kill? So it's still 4 without the magic mushrooms. All right, and if we compare it with the mushrooms in there, it's going to reference all the wrong shit again, right? J27, that's correct. Is it correct? Yeah, looks like it. And then what are these? 18 to 34. And are we 18 to 34 now? No, we are 30 to 34. Okay. How many hits to kill on chosen? So that pushes it. Oh, we're looking at this. So this is without mushroom. Without mushroom and with and this is comparing it with mushroom. Crippling's not a damage modifier, but it's still good to know. So if we're looking at this, I don't know how the damage mods stack either. Is it multiplicative or additive? Let's say it's multiplicative. Let's say worst case, right? It's additive, so we just make this a 1.6. And then we're seeing what? We could get it down to 3 here. And this was 4. This one would go up. This would be 35 times 1.4. So it's 3 hits there, 4 hits there. And what's mushroom cost for AP to use? $6 AP. Quite expensive. For 4 turns. Does it degrade over time, chat? Does it go from 40 to 30 to 20 to 10, etc.? Do you guys know? It's 3 AP and loses -10 per turn. Wiki says 6. It does. So that's kind of shit, is what you're telling me. So the mushroom may be a red herring here, but it doesn't matter because the interesting parts of that are actually this, right? The interesting parts of that are even without the mushroom. With the dagger, there's some interesting stuff here. Might be a red herring mushroom. Did Executioner change it? So if we dropped it, the non-executioner builds up here, right? And it does change it. It actually pushes it from 4 to 3 hits, which is actually a big deal. All right. So did we need crippling to cause wounds? That's the next question. So we've executed. So all right. So I guess I need to start summing these conclusions, right? And I need a little bit more space for that. So Executioner brings a dagger, hits from 4 to 3. Do we need that to cause the wounds? Do we need crippling strikes? No, it's a typo, Edge of Light. That I don't really want to fix 8 times when I've copy pasted. But I probably should since this is a public sheet. Thanks for making my life that much more enjoyable. I mean, for quality control purposes on the channel. I appreciate that. Also haven't updated the rest of it. Still says like punctures because we just started with this. These should be blank, so I don't actually think those shouldn't be blank. Those are not messed up, but these are. Okay. So if we're going to build a build for that, and there should be a way to do that, right? So if we pull up another window and open that up. No, wrong one. Perk calculator. We go to the perk calculator. And execution was relevant. We're not yet sure about the other one. We're not yet sure about crippling strikes. And this is gonna 100% require recover an adrenaline. It's gonna require dagger spec. What does that actually leave us? We'll need some. It's gonna have to be nimble. It's gonna take a shit ton of stamina to make this work. So it has to be nimble. Colossus is basically a necessity if you're taking nimble. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's 5 perks left. How does Killing Frenzy interact with this? What if we gave it another 25%? Like if we killed the first one, are the second and third ones easier to kill? So we need a way to kill these reliably, right? Okay, so let's try to type. If we multiply this again, so I basically need to duplicate that. And the thing is, I kind of want to leave the mushroom. The mushroom is such a, it's a consumable. It's a consumable that requires ridiculous setup. This is already going to require setup. Feels like Pathfinder might be a thing on this. If we're running on snow, having some mobility with this seems kind of relevant. But maybe not, because it's 3 AP to attack with the wet dagger, and it's 3 AP to move on snow, and it's 2 AP to move across snow. So it would be 2 tiles anyways. Like maybe that's not relevant. So the other things that, okay, so the things I want to solve then. So the questions that are still interesting are, how does Frenzy play with it? How does crippling, how necessary is crippling? And can we use our new dagger? Does the new dagger have a high enough damage on it to take advantage of it? Like, if we could get the stamina reduction, we can build a less ridiculous brother. Because, oh, and the current stam cost. Current stam should be pretty easy, right? So current stam is, that I can just calculate internally, right? Because it's 45 for triple puncture. So 45 twice is 90, plus adrenaline is 110. Adrenaline minus recovery is 95 stam, right? Did I do that right? I think so. Triple puncture is 45. Twice is 90, adrenaline's 20 is 110, minus the, this is usable. All right, and what does that actually mean then for base stamina? If you're wearing realistically like 115 mail, 115 and like the 120 hat, that's another 19 stam. So we're looking at another 20 on that, which would be 115 is 114. So we're looking at 114 total stam to make that a thing, I think. Okay. That's right, front line to rotate them out. Oh, what's the dagger's cost? Yeah, the dagger's got to be in there too. The dagger's not, oh, I don't know. Do we have obsidian up again? We'll probably go back and find out. Dagger was 0 stam, I think. Okay. All right, so the other then question is the damage on our other one good enough? Our current dagger. Oh, right, there's 2 questions. Okay, we have our list of questions. Let's start answering them. Okay. Can we use the new dagger in a second? How necessary is crippling? I want this one solved next because this makes the other things interesting. So do we have enough damage on the obsidian to cause wounds without it? It depends how accurate that article is. Anyone have that tested? Does anyone know how reliably you cause? Do you always cause a wound with a puncture hit off the obsidian dagger on a 150 health enemy? Has anyone actually worked with that at all? I turn to you, chat. Let's set this up in my game if you want to test. Yeah. Yeah, if you have a way to do this easily, YOEN, that would be phenomenal. As long as you cross the threshold, you'll cause a wound. And the threshold with chosen is a quarter of their health, right? Did we? Dude, I shouldn't have moved away from the wound fucking page. Let me bring up wounds again on the wiki. Which is here. Yeah. Injuries have different thresholds but comprise between 25% and 60%. We need to know the... This is interesting. The sickness modifier. Default's 20%. Wildman's strong and tough and survivor have reduced chance of taking that. That's funny. Where are the wound thresholds? Does it tell me here? Yeah, it does actually put the threshold things here. Where are the... These are blunt. So if we look for piercing, we can actually take a look at this. That's cool. That's actually useful. That's listed out. Cutting. I don't... Does cutting includes piercing? Head piercing. No, this is piercing. Alright. This is a 50. It doesn't matter which one. As long as we get one of them, we don't give a shit. So, yeah, 25% max HP threshold. Which is 37.5. All right. Chosen, that's 37.5. We're not doing 37.5 average damage without Executioner, right? We're doing... Oh, we are. We're doing 35. We're really close to that. So crippling guarantees it. But let's try it with like a Rondel Dagger. So we don't always have to get the Obsidian Dagger. Let's take a look at our Rondel Dagger that we picked up. So I need to copy this and change it for our existing dagger that we just picked up, right? Drop the wild mushroom part. Our average damage is 20 to 40. So 30. And there are modifiers for this because we're looking at 1.2 afterwards. All right. Puncture per hit. Yep, still fine. The first hit is not 1.4 times 35. It's actually just 30. And then future hits are 36, right? Okay. This goes from J, it's 46 to 42. Okay. And this is awkward. So we're right off. Why is this so bad? This is with Executioner too? What are we missing here? What did we do wrong then? Because I don't think there should be that much of a change for 5 average damage. So let me just look at this for a second. What have we forgotten here? So this is... That's the damage. We do call for the damage. J39. Which is that cell. So we do call for the damage. This is cumulative, right? 30, 66, 102. Yeah. So this takes 5 fucking hits. And we're doing it in 3 off the obsidian. That's with the mushroom, which is a trap. Still doing it? No, we're doing it 4 with without the mushroom plus crippling and executioner. 3 would be fucking sweet, man. If we get it down to 3. Right? Is that right? This is base damage of 42, starting at 35 and hitting for 42 afterwards. That is correct. So it's 4. So there is a pretty big difference between using like a Rondel Dagger, even a reduced stam Rondel Dagger, and using the Obsidian Blade. It's another, on average, another hit, right? I mean, it's 138 compared to 134. So, I mean, you're going to get it a percentage of the time. It's not as bad as the difference between 5 and 4, but it is still a difference between 4 and a bit versus 5, right? Where this one is going to do it every single time on 4. All right, and do we need the executioner hits here? Yeah, because the first damage is only 30. I don't think we have to run crippling strikes. I don't think. No, attack 1 should be 30. Attack 1 doesn't ever have the bonus from crippling strikes because, or executioner, because it hasn't triggered a wound yet, right? Enemies being fully armored doesn't matter for dagger damage. It matters for every other weapon damage in the game, but it doesn't matter for dagger. Headhunter is way better than CS on a dagger, bro. I hate to break it to you. Daggers can't hit head. So you can use Headhunter on a dagger, bro, and then Puncture. You use it to swap weapons and then get a guaranteed crit on the 6th swing or 5th swing or whatever it is. But you can't force headshots with daggers. They don't do anything. What about Duelist? Has no effect. It's just armor penetration. Duelist is a straight modifier to armor pen. You don't give a fuck about armor pen with Puncture. You're already doing 100% armor pen. That's an attack modifier. It's not a damage modifier, but it would make the percentages better. Make them a lot better, actually. If you net a Chosen, then triple daggered him, that would be so sick. Oh my god, that would be amazingly fun. Because what is the reinforced net, right? So I want another one of these. Problem is it might reduce some defensive modifier as opposed to adding a offensive modifier. And if they're only rocking like 15 melee defense, reducing their melee defense by 40% is just like +7 attack, which is not all that good. You'd be better off just moving another fucking brother next to them. That's 5. If you got Backstabber, it would be 10. The reduced initiative is interesting though. You might not have to Adrenaline. Melee spelled wrong. So regular net's 40. Is it like 60 for a reinforced net? Huh. All right. So what has this told us? I caught the Izrak in a unreinforced net. Sure did. Doesn't matter though. They'd fix that. So you can update that command to be slightly. I'm not ruling out that I'll play it. I'm just ruling out that I'm going to play it next. It's definitely not going to be the next one. So it might happen in the next like 3 or something if we get there. If we're still interested at that point. Okay. So what did we learn? We learned that. How does Frenzy play? We haven't looked at that yet. Can we use the new dagger? Not really. Brings average from 4 to 5. Current stam, which is too bad because it also reduces the cost, even if it only is reducing by 2 and not by 3, which seems really stupid, by the way, that the way the perks would interact with the famed item disability items is that way. It would bring us back 12 stamina there. So it would bring it down. It would bring it down to 80. What is this? 112. Which we can bring it down by how much again? We need 95 minus 6 twice. Minus 12 then is 83. 83 usable stam is a hell of a lot more realistic than 95 a lot of the time. All right. Any other modifiers we can think of for damage for the dagger? Brute headshot doesn't count. Huge. Huge would actually be really good here. A huge triple melee, huge frontliner. Just raw 10% damage would be great. Because we're not trying to melee defend with this character anyways, right? Although the range defense is a little bit concerning. Because presumably they're going to fucking javelin throw on us. Alright, we're okay, so that's fine. How does Frenzy play? Does Frenzy change anything? So if we take these numbers and multiply by 1.25, let's say that we go into it with the damage modifier. Let's just throw this in. Let's call it a 1.45. This is with the shit dagger. That would be relevant there, but I think it's starting to be really difficult to force a kill before going into a fight. it feels unrealistic to me, and what I'd like it to be is actually something that's going to realistically occur. We want to set ourselves up for success, not set ourselves up for like a one deal like clip moment where we get all the things to happen all at once and amazing things occur. So I think it probably plays poorly. Let's see how it plays with the other one too, though. If we're doing this one here, if we modify that by 1.25 as well, does it bring it down to 2 attacks? No. Okay. That's the right one, right? Yeah. Brings it to 3. I mean, 3 is relevant. 3 is relevant. It brings it from 4 to 3, right? Did I just do that right? No, 136. Still doesn't bring it down to 3. Okay, so we're looking at a 4 attack sweet spot. That's realistically we're going to be able to modify. Okay, and if we were to push this up to 1.3, let's say we got a huge brother, how does that move around? Still 4. And if we move this one around to 1.3, we got a huge brother. It's actually right at 3, right? Right at 4 rather. Because this first one moves by 3 as well. This becomes 33, not 30. Because you get the 10% on the first hit as well. That one's not conditional on having done a wound. So actually, huge is interesting. Huge could make it so we don't have to use the obsidian. We could get 2 brothers doing this if we want to. Because the obsidians are unique. Alright. A big fucking deal on average. These are still averages, so like, and it will so this is an average number, but it will force this average number up quite a bit too, right? So if we're looking at this one as the realistic one we're looking at, this kills most of the time is going to kill chosen, but it's still a range. Another 10% on this range would actually be pretty damn helpful for doing that too. Gives us another 10 HP that we can fuck up on some other hit, which is kind of nice. Okay, so I think that's enough usable information to design the build and then think about whether or not we can create a character that can do that. Attack skill would be nice, but there's no way this is a lone wolf build. It might be something with Backstabber. Let's start thinking about perks that we are considering. Backstabber is one of them. This is not a build that benefits particularly from Killing Frenzy, which is nice. Although, are we going to do anything else with it? Like, how big a deal is Killing Frenzy? It's only for 2 turns. That's the biggest problem with Killing Frenzy, right? If we could do this once and get the bonus permanently, that would be a thing. Indom is always a useful ability. That's certainly something on my radar of things we want. Gifted would be super helpful with someone who needs a shit ton of stamina and a shit ton of melee attack. So that's on my list. How many is this right now? This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We don't count that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's 6 skills. What do you get? 10 perks eventually? I just count 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. So you get 10 perks. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, 10 usable perks. So we have 4 perks floating right now. Backstabber's up there. We maybe need some range defense on a brother like this. Dodge seems like it might be a thing too. I don't like, initiative would be useful here. We might not have to adrenaline if we had high enough initiative. Anything else that's gonna directly save us? Potentially a shield coming out could be nice, although quick hands doesn't interact with shields anymore. Oh, yeah, we already did Executioner. Fast Adaptation is actually pretty good for this too. Because you're never going to miss, or rather, you're never going to have Scatter. It's not like that. This is, and you are attacking 3 times a turn. Potentially Overwhelm is something useful here as well. Anything else? I like Underdog on everybody, but if we're not using melee defense, it just might not be relevant. Headhunter's though good. We don't need Fearless. It's already going to hit everything. Battle Forge doesn't help us. Or Fearsome, rather. Excuse me. So we get 4 more perks, and there's 5 I want. That seems pretty easy, especially with Backstabber being... Or 6 that are wanting. Okay. 5 I want. All right, so let's check out this. Haven't seen chat in like 5 minutes because we're using... This is the only downside of doing this is it pulls the active tab for Chrome, and I can't see chat while this is happening, so like a lot of your comments go missed until I check back. But if we're looking at Season 10 builds, potentially, Fearsome was shit. I checked the 3-headed flail math this morning. It didn't look very good. So the Puncture spec is a maybe. What we call this? I feel like crabs. It's something like a shell cracker or something like that is kind of what we're doing here. Let's start with that name, and we can work on it later. Oops. And then it's definitely recover, adrenaline. We'll worry about the order in which we get it later. Can't type for shit right now. Just want to get these out. Colossus. Not Indom. Nimble. Dagger spec. This is almost certainly a gifted build because it's going to be hard to force those stats otherwise. What else are we missing? Executioner has to be there. Okay. And then it's 3 left. 1, 2, 3. Okay, and the ones we're considering, what were these from the sheet? It was 96 stam? 96 usable, right? $95 usable, 114 total. Okay. And the other ones we're considering are fast adaptation. This is going to just make it a lot more consistent. Backstabber is a maybe. Indom is a maybe for surviving. And like footwork might be a thing too. Okay. That, I think, is enough theory crafting for a few minutes. Oh, and Pathfinder, right? But again, the Pathfinder wasn't that relevant, Sully. Because the way that Dagger Mastery works is it makes your punctures go down to 3 action points, and moving 1 tile on snow is 3, so you can still attack twice. I guess if you're moving more than 1 tile, it becomes relevant, but maybe not. Okay. Crippling didn't really make it more consistent though, right? That's what we looked at. We don't care what wound we're causing. So as long as they only have 150 HP, crippling isn't necessary. I can add that as a list if they change the HP in like response to this or something. Or the HP that we have is wrong. What we need to see is if we've attacked Chosen, if we're reliably causing a wound. Berserk would be really nice. On a 4-hit kill, you could recover. I mean, it makes it much more useful for other builds, for sure. For example, if you're still using it to kill... if you're still using it to kill blueberries, like as a dagger spec, which you probably wouldn't, but you could put a whip on there. Depends if you're ever daggering anything else. Being able to recover while doing something on a turn is super sweet. Okay, I need to go get food. This is lunchtime for me. Actually, I've missed lunchtime by about an hour, so I'm gonna go make food. We will come back and actually take some fights, I promise. We now have a new brother that we're looking for, an interesting background to maybe help fight the Chosen. I do want to test that this campaign, so that will be something we are gonna work towards. And I will be back in just a moment, guys. See you in a couple minutes. In the meantime, if you haven't already, we released a new video this morning, so if you've been a diligent viewer and tuned in and been watching me all day, well, take a minute and watch the video that got released this morning. I'll link it in the channel on the way out. And see you guys in a few minutes.